Howdy everybody, this is Christian Zsilavetz coming to you live from Decatur, Georgia, and here's a little bit of experience, if you will, not advice. When I came out to my parents the first time, it was coming out to them that I was gay. And I was 27 years old, and I didn't have the courage to say it, or the timing didn't feel right when I saw them live and in person after I had kind of butched my hair, and I was still female back then. And I was living across the country, and my dad had said something homophobic or just something that rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't tell them, and that was Christmas, and then a month and a half later on Groundhog Day, they called me up and they said, "We think you're gay." And I said, "Well, you're right." And I think about the only thing I heard my mom say was, "Don't tell your grandmother, it'll kill her." And guess what? It never killed her. Old age killed her. Congestive heart failure took her life eventually. But many years later. And when I came out to my parents the second time, this time I sent them pictures of my hair had gotten shorter, and I was now identifying as male, and it was 9 years later. I was 36 years old and still living across the country, and they had come for a visit to Seattle, and I had sent them pictures in advance so they knew what I was looking like. And then I told them I needed to tell them something, and I met them at their hotel room, and my girlfriend, who is now my wife, waited outside in her vehicle for me while I did this. And so I was able to bookend it, and I think that was really important. I was able to talk to somebody who understood what it was like to come out to your parents, who knew my situation, and someone who adored me, and that was really important to me. And so when I came out to my parents this time in their hotel room, they were not surprised, but they were still kind of in shock, and they played good cop, bad cop. And for this time, my mom played bad cop, my dad played good cop, and he asked me funny questions like, "Why do you want to go to the men's room?" I'm like, "Why do you?" And "Why do you want to shave?" I'm like, "Because I do." And I wasn't yet on testosterone. I was about to start in 3 months. And what I also shared with them was that I was going to be starting testosterone. I told them my plan. I would be starting testosterone, and so my voice was going to be changing. So it was really important for them to know, because I still wanted them in my life. And we went some rocky roads, and they tried to talk me out of it, but I said, I'm already being read as male because I am. And even when I went out for coffee with my dad a couple months later in New Jersey, and a few months later, excuse me for that, a few months later, while my wife, all this time, my wife and I, we were, gosh, maybe it was a year later, we were trying to have a baby, and I guess it was a whole year later. I was thinking it was earlier than that, but it was actually a whole year later, and my wife and I were trying to have a baby, and we'd found out she was pregnant, and I went to call my mom, and my phone rang, and it was my mom telling me that she and my dad didn't want to see me or see us when we went home to New Jersey in a few weeks from then, because they were having a hard time dealing with my transition. And I know it must have been a really painful moment for my parents, because they just didn't know how to handle it. And I guess what I want to say is, we may have been thinking about this stuff for months, if not years. And when we finally tell somebody who is really close to us, especially our parents, they tend to take it very personally. And one of their first thoughts is, what do I tell other people? What are people going to think of me as a parent? What are people going to think of you? Are they going to think you're a freak, right? Or what do I tell them? Will they think I'm a bad parent if my kid turns out to be trans? Will they move back home because nobody's going to love them and they're never going to get a job? Or they're going to become jobless because of transition? which is very highly likely in this society. And will they get beat up, or will they be murdered? Will they face domestic violence? You know, all these things go through their heads, and they happen really fast, and a lot of it comes out at us. And so what I would say to you is that trust that process, and know that even if you hit a dip in a relationship, it doesn't mean it's forever. For some of us, it turns out to be forever. That when we come out to our parents as transgender, especially, the relationship dies. And if that's what you need, or if that's what that other person needs, and therefore that's what you need, honestly, in the long run, then that's the way it is. And there are many of us who will adopt you, hands down. And if you have a transgender child, what I will say to you is, no matter how old they are, do your absolute best to remember that their transition or their trans identity, however, whatever they choose to do with their body, if anything at all, you know, if they're non-binary or they just never physically transition to anything, right? Their gender identity is not about you. It doesn't say anything about you as a parent if your child is cisgender or if they're transgender. If they like their body, or they identify with their body, or don't identify with their body. And most cisgender parents, you know, have cisgender children, but most trans kids come from cisgender parents. I cannot carry my own children. I cannot physically create my children. And so even though I am in the process of raising a child who might be appearing to be transgender, it's not about the nature. I mean, it's not about the nurture. It's about the nature of who they are. And I just feel grateful that they are in my home. It doesn't mean it's not hard to be a parent, a trans parent of a trans child. It can be just as hard, if not harder, because I understand some of the challenges they may face. I understand what it's like to have friends cut off contact when they find out that I'm transgender. And it's only happened a few times, but I also know the joy of getting to look in the mirror and see the real me. And the joy of being properly gendered, to be addressed properly, to be addressed with a name with which I identify, with which I feel good about hearing, that when I look in the mirror, I like who I see, even though I'm overweight. I feel comfortable in my skin in a way that I never did before. And universe helped me with this, right? We've been listening to a Disney songs CD from the library, and of course one of them is the Mulan song Reflection. And I remember crying when I saw that in the movies when I came out the first time. And now when I hear it, I see my trans self, and now I realize why I was really crying. When will my reflection show who I am inside? And if I really honor myself, I will not honor my family, and they'll freak out. And you know what? There's always going to be something to freak your family out. Always going to be something. And there's always going to be something that your kids are going to do that are going to freak you out. And it's always something. It's not about you. And your parents are going to get over it much faster than you think they will. And even if your relationship with a parent or with a sibling or another close family member dies because you tell them who you are, even though they've probably seen it for a long time. If the relationship dies, then the universe is really just making space for you to have the most amazing people come into your life who will honor you 100% for who you are, who will not freak out when you change your name, who will honor your pronouns and ask you your pronouns, and learn to laugh about the things you used to cry about alone. And while I'm at a place right now myself, in full disclosure, my parents are having a hard time dealing with the gender identity of my child, and the fact that we are supporting, my wife and I, are supporting our child in being their authentic self. And my parents and my brother are both seeing this as like a nurtured thing, that it must be my or I don't know if my parents are, but my brother saw this as, it must be your fault. How is it that you could be a trans person, 1% chance, with a trans child, 1% chance? We're not genetically related, but I've been raising this child. And all I've been doing is allowing my child to be who they are. And honestly, you and I both know you can't change the nature of a person. There's still going to be, if your girl likes to wear pink and you want her to wear blue, guess what? She's not going to wear blue. She's not going to like the color blue. She's going to hate it, if anything. And if she likes to swim, but you want her to play soccer, she's not going to play soccer. She's going to swim. Or she's not going to do anything at all, and she's going to be mad at you. And my parents are worried I think they're worried about their grandkid. And my mom said, after all you've been through, and I said, you got to know this. I really haven't been through a lot. My life has transformed because I have transformed. I am perfectly imperfect. I still yell when I should be quiet. I sometimes forget to take the trash out, as my wife will attest to yesterday. And life is 10 times better than it's ever been. And I am able to be of service to LGBT youth, especially trans youth, trans educators, trans parents, trans families, companies who are desiring to make their products, their offices, their stores, to help schools make them more gender affirming for everybody, not just for trans youth. And I'm much happier when I look in the mirror and when I hear my voice, I hear the right voice. And I've lost a few friends along the way, but I've gained family and I've gained friends. I've regained friends. I regained my ex-fiance from 25 years ago. He's a dad. I'm a dad. Enough said. We're both husbands and fathers, and we work around a lot of queer youth. So trust that process and know that if the relationship hits a dip, what I was told is don't give them the easy way out. Send the Mother's Day card, send the Father's Day card, send the send a Christmas card or Hanukkah card or whatever you send. But also allow them to see who you are and know that they may never open those cards. Send it by email. But don't feel like you have to beat down the door. Know that time takes time. And some people may never come around, but if they don't come around, we're here. And I'm here. And you could always just call me directly, 678-653-4077. Or email me, christian@prideschoolatlanta.org. My wife is also always glad to talk to other partners of transman, or partners of trans folk. We've been together since I told her I was transitioning. And that was 11 years ago. So we've been together for 11 years as of July 7th. And we've been married 9 years. And we have 2 beautiful children and an amazing home and life in Atlanta. And we had an amazing life in Seattle as well. And while some people struggle with our gender identity, with my gender identity and the gender identity of my child, I have to remember it's not about me, and it's everybody's transition. And so giving everybody time to process what we've been thinking about every single day, every single moment, is part of the grace of all of this. And it's hard to lean into people who get it. But I gotta tell you, use your Facebook friends to sometimes say, I'm having a gender day. Is there anybody out there who can talk? And there's thousands of us. The Facebook Transgender Alliance has 30,000 people. And it's a support network. And there's the people who, for FTM, all trans guys know each other. There's a joke that we all know Aiden Key or, a couple other guys. And no matter how you identify, if you are non-binary, not cisgender, whatever, whoever you are, or if you have a child who is or a loved one, and you need some support, feel free to reach out. Again, my email is christian@prideschoolatlanta.org. And this is just, it's just me talking, you know. But as a member of Pride School Atlanta Incorporated and Pride School Atlanta, wherever you are, if you need help, we have connections to organizations as well as ourselves, a small group of us that are capable of connecting with you and your people. And if you need some help at your school, most of the work we do in the community is for fun and for free. Donations are always appreciated, but they don't have to. It doesn't have to be anything. It's really for fun and for free. And it's just such an honor to be of service to my community, and also to find ways to be paid to serve our community by charging corporations to do the trainings necessary to make their companies meet that HRC 100 index, and so much more, and to make it possible for them to honor everybody who walks in the door of their companies. So thank you for everybody who's been on this journey with me for the last 11 years. And never mind, it goes way back to when I came out the first time. And, you know, I've had teachers who have been with me through divorce, through marriage, through divorce, through coming out, through divorce again, you know, married relationships, and but most of them I didn't tell anything until I was a junior in high school. And I think I know we are working to change that concept. And so that's one of the reasons why it's great to be an out educator, who's willing to listen to kids, you know, all the way down to 4 or 5, and hear them when they say, I'm just Joe, I don't identify with pronouns, and I'm 5, you know, I'm a girl in the front, a boy in the back, or vice versa. So anyway, I hope you all have an excellent day, and please consider sharing this video. And if it helps one person deal with coming out and the backlash that happens from it, remember, you're pulling really hard against a system that's been in place for a long time. And when you pull really hard, whoosh, whoosh, it's going to snap back really hard, and there's going to be some backlash when you come out to somebody or when they find out who you are. And it may take years for some of it to fall back into place. But know that in the meantime, we're all here for you. And if one person can't be there, let us be there. The rest of us be there. It's a big planet. Peace.